What's up YouTube? Capital G here. You guys remember shooting Quasar Dragon, Yusei Fudo's super boss monster from the Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's anime. He's pretty much been MIA throughout the entirety of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrains era. However, moving towards Master Rule 5, this will once again be a card that you can spam onto the board as many as you want. Summon as many copies as your heart desires. The strategy is going to be legitimate once again, and I think that Lavals are one of the best archetypes to summon multiple copies of Quasar turn 1, mainly because they have this incredibly OP card called Rekindling, not a hard once per turn, that lets you summon up to 5 monsters at once, and there's no restrictions on the card. Rekindling is such a nuts card, and Lavals can definitely take advantage of those monsters for synchro summoning. There will be absolutely no link monsters used in this video or in this duel. You don't really need link monsters for the Laval strategy. Load your graveyard up, activate Rekindling, and summon a ton of synchro monsters over and over again. Anyways, let's go ahead and roll this. This is a turbo build, which is why you guys will see things like Dark World Dealings, the Tune Engine, Into the Void, and Hand Destruction. These are cards that are just meant to turbo your deck, get you as fast to those Rekindlings as humanly possible, essentially. And Hand Destruction can also get Lavals in the graveyard. You want to put Laval monsters in the grave ASAP. You can see some of them being discarded. Obviously, Handmaiden off of Molten Conduction Field is a way of getting a bunch of these guys in the graveyard during your first turn. And then, as I said before, you guys know, you just activate Rekindling, summon 5 monsters back from the graveyard. Pretty damn OP if you ask me. And then you summon a card. I'm really just gonna say this. I'm not convinced that TG Hyperlibrarian is going to make it through the entire Yu-Gi-Oh! 7's era at 3 on the FNL list. I feel like this card is probably going to go to 1 because these synchro decks, man, they get so much advantage out of this card, especially if you can make multiple of them in your first turn, and then you go for something like Formula Synchron. I mean, right here, he really doesn't have that many resources in his hand. However, when you summon Formula Synchron as your third synchro on field, both of your CG Hyperlibrarians are going to activate, and then your Formula Synchron is going to activate too. So basically, it's like a draw 3, and once you draw 3 cards, you essentially have a new hand at that point. He already has Hand Destruction to dig even deeper. You see that he's going to go for the 5/5/2 play of Quasar Dragon, but then he drew into another copy of Rekindling, which just means he'll summon another Quasar by going 5/5/2 once again, drawing cards in the process because of Formula Synchron and also because of TG Hyperlibrarian. No hard once per turns on any of these cards. I thought it was a little weird that he used Quasar Dragon to negate the Mecha Phantom Beasto Lion, because like what if your opponent just randomly drew Nibiru off of the card destruction? I feel like that would have been kind of troll. But even if he did draw Nibiru, I feel like he probably would still win because he had the third copy of Rekindling to summon the last Quasar Dragon. But it's just something like I wouldn't have known. Who cares about your opponent getting a token? Come on, Zuka, you got to do better than that. Anyways, he does have the last Rekindling. That's going to get him even more draws and even more synchros and even more fodder. All he's looking for at this point, since he has the level 5 and the 2, he had a level 1 tuner on field. He just needed one more non-tuner level 4 monster. That's what the Monster Reborn is there for. And yeah, after synchro summoning for a 5, he should be able to go for his third copy of Blazar, or excuse me, third copy of Shooting Quasar Dragon. Now, I personally, as good as 3 copies of Quasar Dragon is, I would personally recommend that you go for like maybe 2 Quasars and a Blazar Dragon, just to give you a little more options. You could even go like 1 Blazar, 1 Quasar, and like a Seafer Dragon, but I would probably go like 2 Quasars plus like a Blazar, or maybe 2 Blazars and then go into like 1 copy of Quasar. But you guys can see it's fairly easy to do when you're playing these Laval decks, because essentially all your cards are just kind of turboing you into getting Rekindling, and you're going to be dumping your Lavals into the graveyard throughout the combo using things like Hand Destruction. And you know the interesting thing, even though like you look at these decks and you say they're super glass cannon, I kind of feel like if you put some Dark Ruler No Mores in your main deck, I kind of feel like you could actually go second, because then you could just negate whatever your opponent has on field and you'd be able to potentially combo during your turn. And you know, Quasar does get multiple attacks, so it's kind of like a game-ending OTK type card as well. Anyways, let's pause for one quick second. Let's check out this Quasar Turbo Laval build. All right, so this is what the deck looks like on paper, and man, talk about a blast from the past. Look at this extra deck. As I told you guys before, no link summoning required. It is all synchro all the time, and when you look at the main deck, it definitely looks like a deck from like the 5Ds era, even though I believe that Lavals are from Zexal. They're from like the Dual Terminal 2. I think that it was Flameveil in Dual Terminal 1 and then Lavals in Dual Terminal 2. The reason that you run so many old school cards in these turbo builds is because you don't want any hard once per turn. You want to be able to activate these draw cards and these dig deeper into your deck cards as many times as possible, because you might open with multiple copies. You're going to be running things like Enter the Void, the Tune cards, Hand Destruction, Dark World Dealings. If you open with multiple of these cards and they were hard once per turns, or you try to replace some of these draw cards with newer cards that are hard once per turns, there's the option for you to open with multiple copies and for you to have like dead hands, etc., etc. We want to be able to load these Laval cards into the graveyard ASAP and then resolve your Rekindling and just summon a bunch of monsters. I think that if you wanted to make this deck probably better and just make it a little more versatile, I believe personally you should either include Dark Ruler No More or Nibiru into the main deck. I'm not really certain, usually you see things like Called by the Grave in these builds. I'm not really sure that there's one singular hand trap that's going to stop this other than Droll and Lock. If you get Droll and Lock, you're just gonna lose. I think that you're not gonna be able to dig for the cards that you need, and also TG Hyper Librarian just won't work at that point, so yeah, you'll 100% lose. But the reason I would like maybe Nibiru or Dark Ruler No More is because you could trim a little bit of the fat in this deck. Desynchro is kind of like a win more card. You could take out the Desynchros, you could take out maybe Upstart Goblin, and now look, you've got 3 open spots. Running Dark Ruler No More and Nibiru gives you the option of going second. I don't know if I'd play both of these cards. Maybe you could go 5 copies, and then if you went second, you'd have the option of hitting one of these power cards and still being able to win. And I don't think that it would even affect your going first all that much, because you can discard these cards for Hand Destruction or Dark World Dealing. So if you draw them and you're going first, you don't need them. It's not that big of a deal. Just discard them and hit your combo piece.